Hello, everyone. Well, it is March the 8th. It is day 5, 2017 of TowerGate. Okay, let's take a look at what we learned in the last 24 hours as TowerGate plays itself out, all in the wake of the newest WikiLeaks release of Vault 7, which is all about CIA covert operations. Perfect timing, Julian. Thank you so very much. I'll get to that in another video. Okay, so it appears that we are still playing on this narrative. We still haven't got any physical copies of these FISA warrants that supposedly exist, the two FISA warrants, or the record of the request for the FISA warrants, one being rejected, one being granted. It appears that there is someone in the Trump administration actually working on getting their hands on those, if they do exist. And so we still don't have 100% confirmation that there were, in fact, FISA requests. But we learned a couple new things yesterday. And the first thing we learned is that it appears that the president does not need a FISA request to direct one of the intelligence agencies to go after someone who they believe, or to investigate someone who they believe may be involved in some sort of espionage. This deals primarily with foreign agents and things like that. But certainly this could have been used by Obama or someone in his administration to launch a surveillance operation on Donald Trump. It appears that this power is found in the U.S. Code, Chapter 36, Title 50. There's about 4 or 5 standards you have to meet, but all those standards simply deal with you being able to make a fair argument that the president, without using any FISA warrant, can, if he meets these standards, get a surveillance operation launched onto someone. So it appears now that there is a way that the president can direct surveillance on a individual here in the United States or abroad without using the FISA process. And this is a very interesting revelation. And it also may explain why why Clapper stated that he wasn't aware of any FISA application, and that's why when Mulcahy commented, he said, yeah, there may not be a FISA application, but it is possible that the president still could have launched a surveillance operation. So the idea that you have to have gone to the FISA court to get the FISA request is now been proven that is not true. The standards that you must meet for the president to launch a surveillance operation on someone without going to the FISA court, I've read it. I didn't memorize it, but I'll tell you, there's like 4 or 5 things that you have to do that just essentially you have to make the argument that the person could be involved in some sort of espionage. Could be an American, it could be a foreigner. The espionage could happen here in the States or it could happen abroad. So it's wide-ranging what he can do with that. So that is a very interesting thing to have popped up. And also there's something else that hasn't quite come up, but it's going to come up. And it's what I've been mentioning since day 1 of this process, which is that a lot of times, and this has been done for many, many years, this is not new. A lot of times what will happen is that there will be some law or something that prevents an American intelligence agency, the CIA, the NSA, whoever, that prevents them from being able to launch on someone without going through a court process. And a lot of times they want to get around that. That they don't want to have to go that route, and they want to investigate someone, and they don't ever want there to be a paper trail such as a FISA request. So what they do is they go to one of our friends, foreign governments. Usually it's the UK, Great Britain, their intelligence agency. Sometimes we use German or maybe Polish or some other intelligence agency in Europe. Of course, we also work with the Israelis. They also have a lot of technology capable of intercepting international calls, tracking, eavesdropping, wiretapping, overall electronic surveillance. The Israelis are very capable of this as well. So this is a way that intelligence agencies will sometimes go around federal law to launch a surveillance operation. They simply sign up a third party. They go to a third party, a foreign country, and work with their intelligence services, let their intelligence services actually do the surveillance, and then of course they use a mediary to transfer that information into American intelligence. And the agency in England that would do this is their version of the NSA, which is called the GHCQ. So the GHCQ is most likely, or possibly, very possibly, was the actual source, the ones who actually did the legwork, the dirty work, the actual surveillance itself. So this is very likely a possibility, and that's why I continue to say that we should not automatically assume that we're going to find these FISA warrants. There may not have been any FISA warrants because, as I just mentioned, under Chapter 36, Title 50, the President can order surveillance. And all he needs is to meet that standard, and then of course the Attorney General must sign a sworn statement verifying that he or she is in agreement with the President. And that would make it legal. Doesn't require a FISA request. And of course, if they used a third party, such as the GHCQ, the British version of the NSA, they also would not go through the FISA process. So there are ways around this. And of course, this gets to sound like the spy versus spy, some very spooky deep state stuff. And of course, that's all going to be revealed. I'm going to talk about it in another video about what we're learning from WikiLeaks Vault 7. There is another name that's been popping up in the last 24 hours, and that is Admiral Mike Rogers. Very interesting character. Admiral Mike Rogers paid a visit to Trump Towers. He knows Trump. He was the head of the NSA. Keep in mind, the NSA is attached to the military. So the person at the NSA who's over the NSA is a military officer. In this case, it's Admiral Mike Rogers. Now, Mike Rogers is pretty well known as having this reputation of this guy who went rogue. He was part of the deep state, but at some point he fell out of favor with them, and at some point, this was back, a while back, maybe about a year ago, there was Clapper, the Pentagon, Brennan, some various people were calling for Obama to fire him because he fell out of favor with them. And was reported that Admiral Rogers made a trip to Trump Towers and had a conversation with Donald Trump. Now, it is believed that if there was eavesdropping, surveillance going on around Donald Trump or people around him, which would of course sweep him up in it because he has communications with the people around him, Admiral Rogers would certainly have known about that. He was the head of the NSA. He would have had wind of it. He would have gotten wind of it. Even if he weren't made aware of it, he certainly would have gotten a wind of it. He was the head of the NSA. And you got to remember, when these intelligence agencies, all the various intelligence agencies are involved in all this type of activity, all the other intelligence agencies are aware as well. The CIA spies on the NSA. The NSA spies on the DIA. They spy on naval intelligence. Naval intelligence spies on the CIA. You got to understand that the complex world of intelligence, they all spy on everybody and on each other. And so it's very, very likely that Trump may have gotten this information that he was being spied on by Admiral Rogers. It may have been Admiral Rogers who advised Trump, being head of the NSA. He may have told Trump, hey, I should tell you this, you are being monitored, you're being surveilled, you're being listened to, what have you. So it may have been Admiral Rogers who gave Donald Trump this information. And that would certainly be a very good possibility, meaning that Donald Trump has known about this type of thing that's been going on for quite a while, and maybe he just decided to drop it this past Saturday. What prompted him to do that, I don't know. But with all the claims of Russian hacking and all this sort of stuff, it really puts the media in a very difficult situation. Because on one hand, you have the media, particularly the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, and all their surrogates, you have them coming out and trying to convince people that there's a collaboration between Trump and Putin and Russia, and he's some sort of a foreign agent, and people around him are some sort of foreign agents of Russia, and they have some sort of a plot or something like that. And this is all based on surveillance and intelligence. That's where all this information is coming from, which is being leaked. So Donald Trump's got all this going on. So he's like, okay, well, so basically the mainstream media is reporting on things, on information. It's being leaked, which was information that was learned from surveillance. So now Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, I'm being surveilled. I'm being eavesdropped on. I'm being wiretapped. And so then the media comes out and says that's crazy, accusing, you know, the intelligence agencies or the president of surveilling you or whatever. Well, it puts the media in a really difficult situation, and that may have been why he did it. Because on one hand, you have the media using leaks based on surveillance to make the argument that he's a Russian agent. On the other hand, they're laughing at the idea that he was under surveillance. You know, you can't have it both ways. If you're out there selling this Russia thing based on leaks that came from surveillance, and then on the other hand you turn around and laugh at the president when he says, "Hey, I'm being surveilled," you can't have it both ways. I mean, either there is intelligence operations going on against Trump, or there is not. And you can't have it both ways. And I think that may have been why he dropped it at that time, because up to this point we've all been led to believe that something happened that morning, that Trump tweeted that Saturday morning, that he read something or was given some information. It's possible that he was given this information prior to that, or it's possible he was given the information and he had someone look into it, and maybe he got confirmation of what Admiral Rogers told him or someone else told him, and maybe that's why he dropped it. I think we'll eventually learn what prompted him to do that on that particular morning. But at this point, these are new facts that have come to light. So we now know, as the drip continues to happen, that we now know that Barack Obama did not need a FISA warrant. The president can launch a surveillance operation on somebody under Title 50, Chapter 36. We understand that it is possible that a third party could have been responsible for the actual dirty work of the surveillance, that happens all the time. That still has not found its way into the mainstream media, but it will. Because I know I've studied many intelligence operations in that type of thing, and I can tell you that they've been doing this for many, many years. That came out during the church committee hearings in the 1970s. In the 1970s, we learned that the CIA will use foreign governments. So there's much more that's going to come out about this. And again, as I have stated in the other two videos since I started doing this, I do not think that going through the Congress is the way to do this. I do believe that they'll try to protect the deep state, and I still think that Trump should have appointed a special prosecutor, or had the Attorney General appoint a special prosecutor, or go that route. First of all, keep in mind, Congress does not have prosecutorial powers. The Congress can have hearings, they can put on a circus, but they can't charge anybody. They can't hold anybody accountable. That's why they do these things through Congress. It's a way of covering up, not a way of getting to the truth. You see? And that's why I disagree with it. Now, if Trump appointed a special prosecutor, and they looked into this, and they found criminal activity, then a special prosecutor can then refer that to the Department of Justice, to the FBI, and then they can actually file charges and take criminal or legal action. So this is why, you know, now maybe they're just doing this to let it play out in the Congress, and they'll appoint a special prosecutor once they get information from the Congress. Maybe they'll say, okay, we've discovered enough, that we have enough here that we can appoint a special prosecutor. But that means going after the deep state, and there Trump will find an incredible fight, not just with Democrats, but with his own party, with the overall establishment. I think Trump certainly won't back down from that, but you know, I'd like to see him going about this differently. But anyway, that's where we are. Day 5, drip, 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 drip. We are learning a little bit more, and we'll continue to watch this on a daily basis. If anything comes up later in the evening, I'll shoot up another video. But as far as we sit today, the new information today is that the president doesn't need a FISA warrant. He can launch surveillance. He can, the president, doesn't have to be the Attorney General. And we know that Admiral Rogers' name is popping up as someone who may have given Trump some information. And it appears that possibly the GHCQ, the British version of the NSA, may have been the actual source of the surveillance. Still no word on the FISA warrants, if they exist or not. I imagine we'll find that out before the week is up. So that's where we are. I'll keep watching it. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate every one of you who are subscribing to my channel. Please continue to do it. I'll continue to work and try to get better, shorter videos with more content. Hopefully not repeating myself so much. But anyway, that's what's going on, and we'll just keep on working. Alrighty? See you guys. Bye.